Good morning from Assumption Greek Orthodox Church in Chicago. Many of you online were asking about the inside of the church. I know that for our stream you can see a little bit of the inside of the church, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a tour this morning, showing you the interior of our church here. As you can see, I'm about ready to start Orthros and Liturgy, and that's kind of what the congregation looks like. But if you look up here, you can see our dome, which is all tile work. And then we have a lot of design on the barrels of, excuse me, of the dome, or of the arches. This church is a cruciform style church, which means it's shaped in the shape of a cross. We have several stained glass windows throughout the church, as you can see down the aisles. And in the back here we have more of a Byzantine iconography, iconostation or iconostasis. And then we have more of a Western Renaissance-y, it's not even a word, Renaissance-y, but Renaissance looking icons on the sides. And then our Platitera and the apostles on the back. So I'm going to take you into the altar area, where many of you have never been. This is the inside of the altar. Here we have the Orthros table. This table here has where we prepare Holy Communion. So here's the chalice that we have, the paten, which is the disc, the star, which sits over the top. I'm going to give you a little bit of a short tour here. In pieces. So this is the paten, or the disc. It says in Greek, take, eat, this is my body. And the reason it has a little cutout on the bottom here is so that when, at the end of the service, when we put it like this and pour it in, it has like a little ramp in order to put the crumbs and pieces in. This is where Holy Communion sits, the body of Christ. Obviously the blood of Christ goes inside the chalice. And then this little piece here is called an asterisk. And it really represents the Star of Bethlehem, and it sits up on top of the paten here, and then we take the cloth and it's placed over the top. Kind of hard to do with one hand. It's placed over the top, and then as we carry it out for the great entrance, we have that one covered, and then this one covered here as well. This particular cloth here is called the ayir. And it's a large cloth that is placed over, let's see if I can do this. It's placed over both gifts here, and you see it like this on the altar table when we're in the service. And then this part is wrapped around the priest's neck as we go around for the great entrance. So we have an icon here of the Nativity, and then also our niche here that we have cut out on the wall is also the Nativity. Now this particular icon here, or painting, is a unique one that I've pointed out before. It's got a little bit of a reflection on it, but you can see that the light and the shadows that are cast from the different figures comes out, so it shows that Christ is actually the one that's emitting the light in the icon. So that's kind of a neat thing there. The back of the church, we have St. John Chrysostom here, St. Athanasios here. I don't want to block his face. And then we have here St. Basil the Great, and St. Gregory, the theologian there. There's also the, let's see here, the crucifixion of Christ in the back. And then on the back of the altar here, which I don't know if anybody sees that from the outside, but on the back of the altar we have the chairs here for the altar boys, and we have another little table that's there. That table, historically, it has wheels on it, and it moves. And the reason it moves, it's pretty heavy, but it does roll. The reason that table has wheels and rolls is because many years ago, when the church was doing multiple liturgies a day, this church used to celebrate 4 liturgies a day on a Sunday, 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs. That table was rolled in front of the altar table in order to have the second service, so that it would be a separate altar table for that service. So this is kind of what my view looks like from here. The doors are closed. Put them up here so you can see. This is what it looks like when you're the priest celebrating. The altar table here, I wanted to just share a couple things with you. I'll give you an up close and personal look here at the tabernacle. The tabernacle here sits on top of the altar table, and it contains the reserved sacrament for Holy Communion. So Holy Communion is kept inside, and there's a little door here on the front and a little door on the back. And on the inside, there's the reserved sacrament for those who are either in a baptism or sick. That's where we take out the Holy Communion from. Now on the altar table, as many of you have seen before, there's always the gospel on the altar table. The gospel has 2 sides. There's the side with the crucifixion on it, and there's also the side with the resurrection on it. Now you might be asking, why does it have 2 sides? It's because on Sunday, the resurrection is always on Sunday. We celebrate the resurrection on Sunday, so it's flipped to the resurrection on Sunday. And the weekdays, like today, which is the Annunciation of the Virgin Mary, we flip it to the crucifixion side. And then on the inside of the gospel, this one's got a little bit of wear on it. It has the Gospels broken up into different days. So depending on what day it is, so we would look here on the back. This was for Lent, so we have the Sunday in Lent. So on Sunday we read this Gospel reading, but then we have to go to, let's go here. It starts breaking it up by months. It starts in September and goes on. So we have to go to March. We go to March 25th. Let's flip to it. March 25th, this is the Orthros Gospel, and then we have the liturgy here. So what we do is always go a page before, put the bookmark in, flip the page, and then we have the reading set for today. The same thing is with the epistle reading for the chanter. It's the same thing. Now, but what is underneath the gospel is something that most people don't see, and it's really what we see on the Cavoucleon or the Epitaphio. The Epitaphio itself is a copy of this image. This is called an Andimitsion or antimens, and what it is a cloth that sits on the holy altar table all the time. In the early days of the church, it was assigned to the priest, and it was given to the priest by the bishop. And the priest would take it with him, and when he would serve somewhere, he would place it on the altar table, and then that altar table would be able to celebrate the Divine Liturgy. The Divine Liturgy is only celebrated if this is on the altar table. If you don't have this particular item, or if it's taken away, or whatever, there's no Divine Liturgy that's allowed to be served. So let me give you a little bit of a visual of what this is. This is a sponge, or moussa as they say in Greek. The sponge is used for clearing any of the crumbs that might fall on the antimens during the service or after the service. It's the image of Christ in the tomb with the Virgin Mary and the saints and the different people who were ministering to Christ at his death. We see the evangelists on the sides here, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then we see that there's the cross in the background with the symbol of death, which is the hill of the skull, which is shown here. Let's see if I can mount this so it's not so wiggly. No, sorry, my camera work is not the greatest. These are prepared by the bishop or the metropolitan or the archbishop, whoever the presiding hierarch in an area is, and they're only done at a consecration of a church. Many churches, when they're consecrated, will have one that's made for their church or a couple that are made for their church. At that service, it's blessed as the church is consecrated as a church. The same thing with the antimons, it's also consecrated. So this one here was actually for the monastery of St. John Chrysostom. It was made during the consecration of, I believe, one of their chapels, and it's signed by the Metropolitan of Chicago, Nathaniel. So these are new. We received new ones because we, as you know, we have a new Metropolitan that's been here just almost 2 years now, and these are changed out when a new hierarch comes into the church. So this is always on the altar table. It's folded up after the service. It's opened up in the middle of the service, and it always sits underneath the gospel on the altar table. This candle here is called the akimito candle, which is the unsetting or unfaded candle, or the one that never sleeps. It's always kept in front of the tabernacle so that we can have that light lighting up the body and blood of Christ, which is always on the altar table too. So there's always reserved Holy Communion on the altar table. That's why the altar table is a very special place and is understood to be always containing the presence of the body and blood of Christ. Inside the altar table, I'm not sure where it is exactly without taking everything off, but inside the actual altar table, usually somewhere in the center, there's usually a cutout and a little box that is inside the altar table. And inside that box are the relics of 3 martyrs that are placed inside the altar table. They're placed inside the altar table here, as well as the altar table downstairs, which is also a consecrated altar table. In order to have a consecrated church, you need 3 relics of martyrs in the church to be placed inside the altar table. So we see that those relics are given to the church and placed inside the altar table as part of the consecration service. They're sealed inside of the altar table too, so they're not taken out for veneration at any point in time, but they continue to remain inside the altar table. Back here is a little secret stash. This area here, and let's put it this way, you can see here we have some icons sitting here. Those icons are the icons that people bring into the church for a 40-day blessing. The 40-day blessing for icons is something that is traditional in the church. When someone buys a new icon, they bring it into the church and it's blessed for 40 days within the church. Now, one of the mysteries here, this is a little funny thing, one of the mysteries here is this little thing right here. There are 3 light switches on the back of the altar table. I don't know what they do, but I'm assuming at some point in time I'm going to get a call from someone in Greece to quit flipping the switches because their lights are going on and off inside their church. So I don't know what those are, but I figured I'd bring that up because no one here at the church seems to know what those light switches do. One of the other things that I wanted to point out to you today, which is a little more on the serious side from the light switches, are these particular things here in front of the icons. This one in Greek says "Ευχαριστώ," or "thank you," and these there's another one here too as well. Those are placed in front of icons many times when people receive or attribute a miracle to a particular saint or a particular icon that they're praying to with the saint. So this is the icon of the Assumption, and you see how many different things are here as gifts. There's a set of beads here and a little bag with something in it. as well as a prayer rope, and then really a stack of different ones. These should probably be set up here differently, but that's a little understanding with the icons here in the church. One of the other things that I wanted to mention too is this table here on the side has actually the icon of the Annunciation with the Virgin Mary and Archangel Gabriel announcing to her, but this is a side altar table as well. So if you kind of scroll this way, we're looking to, as you look into the altar, you go to the right side, there's this table, and if you go to the left side, there's the other table over there, which is where the where Holy Communion is prepared. But this table is really called the Diaconicon table, or the Deacons Table. It's really for placement of books or liturgical items in order to have them within the altar, but also in a place that is not taking up prominent space. So I wanted to give you a little bit of the tour today of the altar. Our altar boys see it, and I think many times take it for granted that they're in the altar and they get to see all these beautiful items and things in the altar. But I wanted to share this with you today as a little behind-the-scenes tour at Assumption for those who are watching and looking at our streams from across the globe and across the United States, especially in a time when we're restricted from going to church. I wanted to take you into this extraordinary church to show you a little bit of the icons and the immensity of the iconography and the footprint of the church. We are going to start just in a few minutes with the Orthros for Annunciation today, and I pray that you have a blessed day. And Chronia Pola to all those who celebrate their names day today, those Evangelists, Evangelias, and anyone who celebrates on this beautiful day. May God continue to keep you healthy and safe. And actually this video probably will be posted tomorrow instead of today, which will be today for you when you're watching it, but it would have been yesterday that I have created this video. So have a wonderful day, and God bless all of you.